of Federal Work, Facilities, and Operations. Jeremie Wilson is a veteran program and operations leader with over 2 decades of experience supporting military installations, federal facilities, and mission-critical environments around the world. His background spans civil engineering, logistics, disaster response, facility assessments, and leadership roles supporting both for-profit and not-for-profit service models. Today, Jeremie leads VetMount Solutions, a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business focused on interior build-outs and operational project support, and Hero Mount Solutions, a veteran and first responder-led nonprofit dedicated to service, training, and community impact. That's a lot. Jeremie, welcome to Unsolicited. Yeah. Yeah. No, we're glad to have you. I mean, I have known and appreciated you for some time now, but I know what you do and I know what you're capable of doing. But what I would like us to do is dig through why that matters in the world of GovCon. So we want to talk a little bit about facilities and operations. So as we get started here, what I'd like to know is people often picture construction or maintenance whenever they hear facilities operations, right? So from your experience, what does it actually take to support federal facilities at scale, day in and day out?
Definitely. So federal and commercial are just completely different. And you really have to understand. So when we're talking about federal, specifically, we're talking about federal, you got to understand the mission.
Okay.
Like that is the first and foremost thing. A lot of people go into a construction project or any project with the government and they assume, hey, I can do this thing, whatever that thing is, but they don't take the mission into consideration first. The operations that span across federal, federal units and whatnot, they're just so vast and different that if you really don't take the time to understand what is that organization really doing in that facility, what is that organization doing in that warehouse, in that hospital, in that daycare center, in that fire department, it's the full spectrum of stuff that they require. And vendors, if you want to say traditional contractors or whatnot, they'll come into a space and they'll just, yeah, you want me to put up the wall? I'll put up the wall in the most basic terms. But there could be so many things that go into there before even putting up the wall where you really have to understand just, I want to give an example already, right? We just came off a project for the Fisher House, for example. And if you don't understand what the Fisher House mission is and who they service, then when you went into that project, you're not expecting the timelines, you're not expecting the delays, you're not expecting the hospitality in which the people need, et cetera. You can't build that into the project scope.
Sure.
You're going into it saying that, hey, whatever it is, this particular project was building, retrofitting out one of their buildings. And if we didn't put into the scope everything that had to do with the mission, then now the customer relationship is off. Now the timeline is off. Now everything. So if there was ever one piece of advice that I started people off with, it would be understand that federal is mission first and then the contract or the scope.
Well, I like that you say that because we had the opportunity at ACE to hear from a panel of commanders and they were talking about, I would really love to put industry side by side with my service member, have them see what the problem is or what we think the problem is, and let us come together to a solution, right? And so I think part of the issue is when the service recipient brings a requirement to the contracting officer and the contracting officer says, let me go source this requirement, to your point, it's not always written in there, all the bits and pieces that have to be taken into account. So here you're saying, it's part of your responsibility. When you get in there, don't just say, hey, we're going to go slap this thing up. I need to figure out how this is going to affect their
Absolutely.
mission.
That's a part of your capabilities. And you have to have a capability to understand the mission. You have to also have the capability to have that compassion as well to understand that that mission may change day in and day out. To use DHA or medical facilities, for example, that area may be cleared out for you to do whatever construction work that you may need to do, but there could be an emergency situation that comes in, and it's always the mission comes first. And if you don't understand that, you go into these construction projects, really any project, then it's going to fail. Like this is the only time, if I'm being honest, that you can finish a project and it still be wrong.
Okay.
Right? Because if the mission fails during the project was a bad project. You know what I mean? So to not be too long-winded, but there's been several instances where I've seen construction be completed, but in order for that construction to be completed, the mission was delayed. So in my eyes, that's a failed project.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because the mission wasn't put into consideration, and it came in on time and on budget. You know, I guarantee you that contractor wasn't called back out again, though.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. That's interesting. There's an article that the Government Accountability Office put out, last year, and I was looking over it, and it talks about deferred maintenance and unreliable facilities data, right? And one of the things that stood out to me was that the article wasn't talking about vendors or people not caring about the work that they're doing. It was talking more about systems not holding up. And so when you hear findings like that, where does your mind go from an execution standpoint?
Specifically, deferred maintenance has to do with systems in place. Like there's probably a person that was making a consideration or feeling like the budget, it wasn't that important or whatever the case is, instead of a system or a process in place that said this need to be executed at this time. So like you said, it's not necessarily everybody, but there was probably a person in place of a system. And I think sometimes we fail in that capacity because there are systems in place. And as you know, across the federal landscape, it's just about the people who utilize those systems. So I did have the privilege of working and doing facility assessments for DHA across their full spectrum. And they put such an emphasis because of the mission, uninterrupted medical services for service members. But they put such an emphasis on the system that hold the data. Now their deferred maintenance is so much lower than other agencies in that same space because they invested into the system and not a person or a facility manager in this case that said, oh, well, we don't need to change the HVAC unit. It's running fine. We don't need to do that thing. So for me, when I hear that and when I hear deferred maintenance, I'm looking at the system. I'm like, hey, so what's the data showing you? When was this installed? When was that installed? When does it say it's due for replacement, preventative maintenance, et cetera? So, go ahead.
Yeah, no. It's like paying attention to the fact that let's talk plant replacement value if we're talking about construction. When you build a building, it isn't just about building the building. To your point, preventative maintenance, are we paying attention to the frequency at which we need to make sure we're doing that preventative maintenance so that we don't have to come and doze the thing down before maybe its lifespan?
And when you say we, and this is the crazy part, when you say we, are you just using the system that's already in place for you to do that thing? It's not about a person caring about, hey, I care about HVAC units, because more than likely, and I'm using medical in this case, more than likely it's a physician or somebody who cares about the mission that they're doing. But there's somebody in charge of putting that data into a system. And then are they utilizing that system? And we can go on and on, but even operations across, if I can take a step back into construction, you could come across a project, especially for federal, where there's several different operations that go into one facility and they all require something different. So I'm going back to the mission aspect as well, where you come into a project and it's just like you talking about the deferred maintenance, et cetera. So.
I like that you mentioned that because you said, there might be a person in place of a system. And so we like to say organize around the deliverable, not the individual, right? Because that individual might come and go, but there's got to be a system in place. And so what are you doing to make sure you're meeting the requirements of sticking with that process?
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's really important. And I would like us to kind of unpack that a little bit because you've obviously seen what happens when teams rely on people just trying to figure it out versus when they rely on a solid system. And so why do these heroic type efforts tend to break down in federal operations? And then actually, how do they make it work a better way instead?
The one-liner is a heroic act will fix whatever the problem is today. The process will keep it from happening again, right? So with that, it's just we rely a lot on heroics because they feel good in the moment, right? And if something happened with this mic right now, somebody ran over here and then fixed it, and then we were good and we were chatting again, everybody's like, yeah. But then if we didn't sit down afterwards and be like, okay, well, why did the mic go down? We didn't develop a process to ensure that it didn't happen again. Then all of a sudden we're relying on those heroics. But then that person that came and fixed the mic, because it was just that one person, we're assuming they're always available. We're assuming that, et cetera.
Yeah.
So, and that's just not always the case. So on the federal landscape, because missions change, people rotate out. It is never reliant on people over processes. Again, they will be able to fix it for that day, that particular instance. But then when you rely on that and that ever changing landscape, something as simple as the mission changes. The people can be the same, but the mission changes. Now that person is not even as effective as what they did in whatever heroic act. Now that person rotates out. Now the mission changed, the people change. You still don't have a process in place. You're just asking for failure at that point.
I think that is, you're reinforcing a lot of the things that we've been learning are vital. And so it reminds me obviously of something that we discussed in a previous episode, that the people are constantly trying to swoop in and save the day if there's no process in place. But when you look at facilities and operations, do you often see the same pattern, that sort of swoop in versus a process? And what kind of risk does that create when it's true, consistency matters here?
I see it all the time. You see it even from the contract being written. If you really, once you start looking at more and more contracts, you can tell if a contract was written and it was rushed, right? It won't even have the clauses it's supposed to happen. So a lot of times we swoop in, like you say, there's a project, they say, hey, this is something urgent, and this is not even getting to the actual implementation or construction phase. This is just reading the contract itself with the program manager, facility manager, and those get rushed. When you say risk, again, I get to the end of that project and it wasn't written into the contract. Now the project is done. Where the money coming from? So now the mission can be completed. It could be something as small as the computers weren't in the contract. Now I done built this whole nice facility and everything, and then all of a sudden we get to the end and then they're like, hey, we can't use anything because nobody awarded computers. Now you go through the whole process again. And that's why I say it's so important. I just keep going back to that point. It's so important to really just sit down with the customer, even before contracting, before you get awarded a contract, when you just sit down and look at that agency. What do they need? What are they doing? What's on the landscape? What's on the forefront? What's important to them? And then really going to those facilities. I do a lot of interior redesigns, retrofits. So they're normally live, active facilities that are in operations. So it gives me the opportunity to go in, see what's going on, talk to them, figure out pain points, et cetera. I lost the original point, if I'm being honest, but I keep going back to, man, that mission is so critical, and really getting to talk to those people is what's important.
You made a great point, because I think about this from
You really did.
Yeah. I think about this a lot from the hospital side, growing up as a medic, right? If we're not considering like the busy shifts or the busy time of year or high deployment ops tempo or any of those things, and that's the time that we decide we're going to come in with construction, or we come in with construction and we never decided all the parts and pieces that had to be considered. Someone forgets to put in an oxygen outlet, or who knows, whatever. Right? You're right. There's going to be mission interruption, mission stoppage. You got to go back to the table, rework it. What about funds? It
goes back through the whole process again, whatever long period that went. So really taking the time to do that. It's just, if at the end of a project and I get paid, but the mission isn't happening, that's a fail. The easiest one, the most recent project came to mind. We got an opportunity to install some safes. They wanted wall-mounted safes. Well, when they contacted us, we went and got them. We got the safes, we put them up. But in that conversation, I'm like, hey, do you understand that these safes come with a computer program? Well, that computer program needs to go onto the military network, which then requires a work ticket to then get on the network. You understand how software goes, because it's really security restrictions to get onto that network, et cetera. And I'm telling them like, hey, you probably won't get approved for this software. It's not a mission critical software. The only thing it does is that it allows you to put the codes in. So it's the fancy one, right? Yeah. But that conversation, I'm like, I'm going to give you a standalone laptop, a part of this project, but that's a conversation ahead. If we went and installed the safes, after the fact, the safes are on the wall, and then I just walk away as a vendor, like, you paid me to install the safes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And good luck with getting your work ticket that I already knew you needed. and I already knew wouldn't get approved because conveniently, and I retired out of this location. I know the people that work over there, so I can have those soft conversations and say, "Hey, is this something that's going to get on the network?" Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we get to the end of the thing. So we was able to alleviate the problem before it even happened just through conversations, and then we included it into the project scope. But again, if I got to the end of that project, now there's just safes mounted on the wall. They look better.
Yeah. I love that about you, that you weren't just over there to collect the dollar, that you were trying to actually help them solve the problem. You're like, look, I can put these up if you want.
It doesn't make, and hopefully I can say it like this, I'm so blessed, it doesn't make me a difference on the completion of the project. What makes a difference to me is the mission happening. We spent so much, like you said, over 2 decades, servitude, right? We're just on the other side of the fence, and we're just continuing to serve in the same capacity.
I like that. I like that. And
Yeah.
also, too, that doubles down on what you said earlier about compassion, right? Because when we're on the other side of the fence and we're now an industry partner, you said something about having that compassion. It's that compassion that drove you to take that extra step. Well, hold on now. Are you putting these on the network? Are they standalone? I mean, that's kind of outside of facilities management, but you had the compassion because you're really focusing on solving that problem, which is what sales is really about. Because what I've seen in our industry is people miss that part of sales, which gives sales a bad reputation, right? But real sales is doing what you talked about, having that compassion. Like, hold on, wait a minute. You didn't have this in scope. Let's have that conversation. I like it, man. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just absolutely true. I mean, if you're coming into federal work for money, I'm just going to tell you right now, like, go commercial. It's a lot easier and it's a lot more streamlined. If you really want to work with federal government, they're looking for partnerships, not vendors.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that it makes a great point that when you come to the table as a vendor, see yourself as a partner, and what are you doing to try to solve the actual problem, which I think is a lot of the reasons why, as acquisitions have started to morph a little bit, we're doing more of that. Tell us what you think the solution to this problem could be, because, I might have the myopic thought that isn't going to solve the whole problem. And so taking it to industry and saying, okay, with your experience, your capability, help us figure out how to solve the problem.
And there's a reason to go back to it seems like the overarching thing of this conversation. There's a reason why you say, hey, let's sit down. Because in that conversation, I've been on both sides of that conversation. I'm going to tell you the mission. When you give me that suggestion that sounds really good on paper or whatever, I'm going to tell you why it's not going to work for us, right? So whomever that was that initiated at me understood I need to be able to explain to them what we do, how we do it, when we do it, why is this important, in order for your answer to actually be a solution for us, So I love it.
No, it's good. Let's shift gears a little bit, because we talked in the beginning that you have both Vet Mount and Hero Mount, but Hero Mount Solutions, you guys can learn more about it at HeroMountSolutions.com. But you're doing something bigger than just the mission that is taking care of the job, right? You're creating space for veterans themselves to do something bigger and different. And I want to talk about that a little bit, because while you were still in uniform, you were having to do a few things to look at what was on the other side of the fence. And so what were you doing, intentionally or unintentionally, that actually built your judgment for business ownership and then leadership after service?
To be deliberate, what I was doing was I was committing. At the end, I said, hey, I'm committing to service to begin with. And then as I knew I was retiring, I had to commit to something else, right? So then what does that commitment look like? And then start walking that path. Now, I went down the same road as everybody else, and I started looking at podcasts and YouTube videos and online and education, and hey, this is what. And then I said, no, go out and talk. Just go out and talk to people that's doing a thing that you think you even want to do, not talk to people that you think might, say something, oh, your friend. And if you're in construction, like me, for example, I'm in construction. I want to stay in construction. I've been doing construction since I was 15. So I went and spoke to business owners that are doing construction. I went and spoke to the commercial side. I went and spoke to federal business owners that are in construction, not just federal vendors or contractors that are doing work or contracts, because I started off doing that as well with people that did services or whatever. And it's just, they're completely different landscapes. And through those conversations, you just learn so much. And then you can figure out, one, is this something that I want to do? That's probably the most important thing, is getting out there and talking. And that's what I did, is just get out there and talking. Outside of that, of course, I want to say, of course, but if this is not well known, like your finances, if you say, hey, I'm commit to do this thing, that's also committing to, because ownership is a lot different. Sorry, segueing. If you want to be a business owner, anybody looking, I look at the camera. If you want to be a business owner, you want responsibility, not money. Right. I'm just telling you in advance, if you want to be a business owner, you want responsibility. And if you just want money, post-military, I would like for you to get a job. If you want to be a business owner, go for it. It's because you want the responsibility. And I knew coming out, I wanted that responsibility. I knew it was still in my heart to serve. I knew that's where the nonprofit came from as well. I knew that I wouldn't wake up in the morning and go out for profit anymore, because I made intentional moves so that way when I got out, my military retirement and disability would be able to cover, plus investments, et cetera. So I would hope everybody's at that baseline first. But when you're trying to figure out what's next, it's really sitting in that moment and just going to talk to, like, look, I can be on that for the next 15 minutes, because that is, it's lost. It's lost today, where we get stuck on, like, because there's so much information readily accessible out there, and we think that that's the best information because they make it look the best for us. But really the best thing is still, it's this.
Yeah.
It's just talking. That's it. It's just talking about it, because you will learn so much. The books say one thing, but in real life, in real life, it's just different.
So I want to unpack just a little bit. So you have your profit side and your nonprofit companies, both companies. And the one that you're doing that is the nonprofit, you're actually helping veterans that are transitioning to learn a skill or perfect a skill so that they can get into things like you do with your profit side, the construction side. So you're like your own workforce development here.
Hey, I hope so. So the nonprofit was established of last year, and we definitely went through some hurdles as far as figuring out, what does it really look like? Like, what is the best way? If I say, Jeremy, you want to help out veterans and first responders, what does that really look like? So then this year in 26, I think we got a good understanding that we're going to start off with training. That training is going to evolve into job opportunities, because as much as I want to say we're helping somebody, at the end of the day, in order to help them, you got to put some money in their pocket.
That's right.
Can we say it plainly? Like, we can't eat feelings, right?
We sure can't eat no feelings, man.
Look,
that won't fill me up.
I don't know if anybody's tried to fill up on some feelings, but it just doesn't work out too well. So again, it was really on my heart. And then, as you take a step back and you realize, maybe there's service members out there that were trained in something that's not necessarily effective. Maybe there's a service member that just wants to maintain their household a little bit better, instead of going out and spending the minimum rate, if nobody knows, is at least $125 to get somebody to come out. Yeah. And we're in San Antonio, right? So just to save, even just saving members money. So this year, we're definitely going to come out with some fundraising opportunities. We're going to lead to some sponsorships to get those service members or first responders some training, so they learn some basic hand tool skill sets. We have some other partnerships that we're working on to even get them into the workforce. So partnering with large organizations as well that actually have job opportunities right now. And so we're super excited for 26 to see, like, really putting it into motion on, we're saying we helping veterans and first responders. So how does that look outside of doing work for other nonprofits? Because that's kind of where we fell at in 25, was servicing other nonprofits in the community. So
I like it. So you transitioned out of the military saying, hey, you know what? I'm good. I could go get a job. I could do this, but I'm going to take the skills that I have, I'm going to do some peer-to-peer networking. I'm going to learn a little bit about the business, and then I'm going to start a nonprofit helping veterans transition by learning a skill. And then we're going to go.
wish.
We're going to go help the military do some of that stuff. To
I
train
wish you
them.
made it sound a lot better than how it actually unfolded, But I think that's the beauty about ownership as well, as being able to pivot and evolve as the business grows as well. And but no, I actually came out. Now I knew I wanted to do business, and I was already doing business. But I did come out and I tried contracting. I wanted to see working for an organization that did federal work. What does that really look like? And that's kind of where the DHA with facility assessments came from. And we was doing program management during that time. And yeah, it was fun. It was good. I learned a lot. But I knew where home was, the whole time. So, but yeah, I did. And then the company still evolved. Hero Miles, you just told me 25 had a certain flavor. 26 is going to have another flavor, and 27. But the overarching mission is going to stay the same. We're going to help some veterans and first responders.
Yeah, and you're going to continue serving the military mission.
We're going to continue serving.
Yeah.
After you've been doing something for so long, you can try to pivot as much as you want, but it's going to call you back home.
Yeah.
And I came in when I was 17, came out when I was 37, 38, and did my 20, a little over 20. You've been doing something your whole life, and that's all you have in your heart, So.
And we thank you for your service. And I thank you
thank
for
you.
being here with us. We've enjoyed having you. But before we wrap up, because our time is running short here, what's your unsolicited advice for leaders or organizations that want to become truly capable partners with the government?
Dang. So I do have to give one plug. This is my shameless plug to even the name of this podcast was Unsolicited, and then now it's Unsolicited Advice, because I'm hoping that my wife sees this in the end, because I finally get my opportunity. We have this running thing in our relationship where she's like, "You always giving unsolicited advice," and I'm like, so now it's just like when people be like, with all due respect, if you see me come around, I'd be like, unsolicited advice, and then whatever's coming after, right? So I hope y'all don't take it that way. But no, I have to stick with the theme on this one. So my unsolicited advice, if you're really looking to partner with the government, you got to care about the mission. You just do. At the end of the day, and especially in construction, I promise to you, the wall is going to get put up. Going back to the thing, the wall is going to get built, right? But the government needs somebody that partners with them, that understands that I might have to ask you to shut down in the middle of the day because we have this operation going on, but I need you to still have this project done on time, right? And under budget, or at budget, right? And so it's really understanding what the mission is first, and then your capability. And I think we get wrapped up in this one. Your capability and capability statement, or your capability comes from execution. The capability does not come from nothing that you write on paper. Your capability comes from you doing that thing and then doing it again and doing it again. And then they understand that you can do some more, and then they give you some more, and then you do that thing again and again. Yeah. Right. So it's truly understanding those two aspects. I'm going to take a look to make sure I don't ramble too much, because I made my unsolicited advice. I was like, y'all give me a moment to do my thing now. But yeah, that's let me just pause just to double check. No, that's it. It's understand the mission. If I was really giving y'all advice, it'd be understand the mission of the government if you truly want to partner with them.
Yeah. This was good. I'm really glad to have you with us. This was a
too
lot
short.
of fun. It was really short. So thanks for joining us, Jeremie. Thanks to all of you who have tuned in. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more unsolicited conversations about federal services, operational reality, and the people behind the work. And so we'll see you next time here on Unsolicited.